Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about our introductory adventure for Vineyard RPG, which is the Undead Gala. I wrote this with my friend Luna, who is one of our team members that designed La Chismosa, one of our villains, one of the 10 villains in the Vineyard RPG. And as a reminder, this will be a flip through. This will be uh, spoilers. So you're going to see basically everything that's in this introductory adventure. You can pick it up for $4 right now on sale. And it'll be on sale until the end of the month. I believe it'll bump up to $5 after the Black Friday sale sort of runs out or whatever. But it'll still be on sale. It'll normally be $9.95 on drive-through or free to a backer. So if you're a backer and you're checking this out, you should check your email for a drive-through download link because you've already received this for free. And we're gonna just do the flip through. And if you have any inclination that you're interested in it, this is going to be the pinned comment in the video as well. So I will link you directly there. This art, this cover art that we had Matt do, just fantastic. There's something about that man where he is able to just create this very evocative, this slice of life, capturing things in the moment. I love that man's art, and I won't be shy about it. I am so happy what he did with La Chismosa, and we have some of our murder suspects in the background here. This murder mystery, when I first had the opportunity, when we were approached by Kobold Press, we were looking at what do we do for our adventure? Like, what are we going to do? Like, we were thinking first, like a Day of the Dead, sort of zombie-style adventure, which would be a nice introduction. But then I thought to myself, I'm going to do the most difficult thing possible because I'm a masochist, so I have decided to write a murder mystery. And I had just watched Knives Out and Glass Onion again, and I was like, I want something where the players are going to get something drastically different. I need to introduce the political structure of the Vineyard. What is it like playing in a Vineyard game? And then I wanted to breathe life into a couple of the characters that you're going to see through here. We have a total of 3 of the Vineyard villains within this adventure. We have a partial dossier for La Chismosa, and we have 2 little blurbs about some of our other villains in here. Not a full dossier, but we have some little blurbs about them. So as we go through, you can see like this massive, incredible list of contributors here. This product would be nowhere even close to the amount of quality that we have produced. I'm so proud of this adventure, and we have already received a ton of 5-star reviews for this adventure. The people who have checked it out have loved it. I would love to hear your comments I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, I should say. If you have any feedback for us, I am so excited to hear about it. All of the feedback that we receive is going to be kind of weighed and judged and thought about as we are finishing up the core book and we're shipping to our backers and distributors next year in 2024. So your comments and your expectations and like everything like that, please let us know. We'd love to hear feedback, even if you just loved it. Tell us what you loved. I always forward everything that I see as far as feedback about our adventures or what we create back to the people who made it, so that they can see it and they can appreciate it. And so we had to start off this adventure, this packet, at least this PDF, with how to use this adventure, which I think is very important. And we cover like things like the content warnings for this adventure. There's going to be promiscuity. There's some violence in there. There's some body horror, and there's indentured servitude. And those things are pretty much like present throughout the entire Vineyard RPG book. So if you're not comfortable with any of those things, chances are you're probably not going to like Vineyard RPG. It is a queer-friendly game, and it's made by queer people. Sexuality is just a part of everyday life, and we represent queer perspectives in sexuality through both our villains and like the different people that exist in the setting. So that should not be a surprise, but I just have to say that up front. And we have a setting primer. So this setting primer is something that you're going to give to your players, and it's going to tell them within like a minute of reading this, like, hey, what do I need to know about the setting? So this is something that we definitely wanted to include so that everyone kind of knew what they were getting into. And if you need this text, it's actually on the drive-through link. It's in the description, so you can tell right away, or you can just copy paste this into your Discord, whatever you need. And then we have the synopsis for the adventure. We decided that we wanted to make sure that everyone knew what was going on with the major players in this adventure. So we have a few different NPCs that you have their wants, and then we have an organization where you have their wants. And the Vineyard is included in here as well. And then we have the adventure background, what started it, like how did this adventure come to be. And then I have some GM advice that you can choose to use or not, like maybe put it in your tool belt if you'd like, about running horror, because there's a couple there's a couple scenarios in which you might encounter some horror, in which you have to display it a particular way, and then you have to portray it as a GM. So there's some advice about that. There's a murder mystery sequence advice, and then there is the mystery truths. This whole column here, I'm gesturing to the screen as though you can see where my hand is. So this, on the right side of the screen, we have these mystery truths column table here. And that's really what you're going to be referring to quite often in the adventure, once you get to the murder mystery part of it. It's important that you as a GM have most things in one place, and we didn't want to like spread out everything to where it would be impossible to find. So not only are you going to find this information within the locations generally, but you're going to find the most important stuff right here. And this has been playtested a dozen times. If you encounter stuff, and this is where the comments come in and where we love feedback. If you encounter stuff that comes up with your players that they ask about, and it's not covered in the adventure, write us and let us know. And we might end up putting it in there to make somebody's life easier down the road. We appreciate that. We have the murder suspects, so the NPCs that you need to know the most about in a murder mystery, right? So we have Alfonso, Belle, and then Cicely. The recreated murder scene, we have some notes about that. So the murder scene itself was magically recreated. So this murder, spoilers, took place 100 years ago, right? So we have the recreated murder scene, and then we have some of the other players that are involved in the murder, and so on and so forth. Then we have your adventure hooks here. These adventure hooks, you can use either or in order to involve your players into the adventure itself. And you see some of our art here, and I want to point out a couple of things. So Matt Duckett did this beautiful landscape art for Hilltop District. The Hilltop District is really this ritzy area within the district of the, we call it the city, it's just the city. So it could be planted on top of any city that you have. And our visual inspiration for a lot of our architecture and sort of our cultural inspiration for a lot of these places and things is really Raj Victorian. Now, a lot of Gothic horror focuses on Victorian, but we wanted to do something a bit different. Some of our contributors are Asian, South Asian specifically, and we were thinking that we really wanted to bring out something not only different, but also interesting and fun for a Western audience that was going to consume this. And yes, we do have consultants for this, so there's that as well. And then some of the line art that you're going to see more of in more detail, we used it as sort of background for some of these pages, so just so that the space didn't feel so blank. But it fits wonderfully. LA Breaks did the line art. I love it so much. Moving on. So, part 1. This is where your characters for your party are approaching the estate itself. They've received the invitation. They have a reason to go there. They have what they need in order. They have the gift for their majesty. They have what they need. You have a door attendant. You have the fines and punishments for like breaking the law within there. I think for a lot of these social adventures, you're going to want to present like the crimes and punishments right up front. I think that's very helpful for GMs a lot of the time in mitigating too much tomfoolery. You want them to have some tomfoolery, but you don't want them to just start murdering people willy-nilly. That might not be the vibe for this type of adventure. Might break the adventure if everyone just murders every NPC, of course. And then we have what's known here as the lures that we have for the combat encounter that is optional with this in this adventure. So if you go to part 2, and you've lured your party here, we have this corrupted garden area, and it has a rot infected monster within it, a statue, and some rot flowers. And we also have the rot system. So the rot system in the core book is going to go in its own chapter. But for this adventure, we put it here so that it was just easily accessible for the GM. So right here, the rot system, in part, just to very briefly explain how this whole thing works, is that beneath the city, there is this corruptive, abyssal darkness that sort of rises up. And the Vineyard controls the levee that actually brings that rot out and starts to infect things, and so on and so forth. And it's one of their, we create a problem so that we can solve a problem and be useful to people, political plays that they use. But anyway, the rot as it affects people, your party members, you accrue rot when you decide to absorb, when you decide to interact with things within the rots, or things that you go down to the guts, which is the rotted area beneath the city, or you decide to interact with these creatures, or they decide to interact with you, for instance. You can take a stain, and that would mean that you are choosing to absorb all the rot from everyone else if you want to be a hero. So we move on to our stain charts and stuff like that, and what that allows you to do is you permanently risk filling in your death saving throws for your character by absorbing all the rot from everyone else that has this detrimental effect. And then you get to utilize some sort of stain benefit. And these things are everything from canceling an action from a creature, you regain hit points, double your move speed, you warp creatures to the guts, basically like a banishment. You have things that like automatically succeed on your next save, and so on and so forth. But these things run the risk of, when you take on a stain and you act like a hero, you try to absorb the rot from your friends and protect your allies, and that you might just end up filling in one of your death saves permanently, and that's a huge problem for players. But it's a nice give and take. It also allows the players the opportunity to take control of the narrative, which in a lot of these D20 games just isn't present. So that's how we're approaching the rot system and like the wasting sickness and everything that we've mentioned before in the past. And this is the direction that we're going. And shout out to Chelsea.Steverson with Kobold Press, who started the initial design, the concepts of this system, and then Nathaniel Kryman, our lead designer, who really shaped this up into the state that it's in currently. It'll evolve and it'll develop a little bit more as it is right now, but this is our core concept, and we want to hear what you think about this. So please hit us up with the comments, and send emails or whatever you want to do. Join the Discord, chat with us about it. We would love to talk to you about it and what your experiences have been or what your impressions are. And so we have this area in the Rotted Garden where it's outside the party, and you have this creature, this statue that's beautifully painted by Runesail. I love Runesail's work as well. So Runesail did this art, and you can see like this statue here is like this big, muscular man who is a hunter. They're called Decimason, the trophy seeker. And you initiate this fight. There's a lure, there's a horror lure to get people there. There's someone screaming. Turns out that the person screaming was just like a body part attached to some rotted tendrils, and it's like causing like the I'm sure some of you have heard of like the animals that do the fake cries, to the fake baby cries. Similar trap. Okay. But anyway, moving on. And then we have the reception room. And the reception room includes some of our two major villains for the core book. We have Aisling Rovehnna, which is our BBEG, our corporation person, basically our CEO, our representative of evil undead corporation. And then we have Confessor Astelius, who's indicated here in the line art. The portrait down here in the bottom left, Yorsi Hernandez, wonderful artist, absolutely just stunning work. I'm very proud of the work that Yorsi has done for us. All of our portraits, all of our full color portraits for these villains are done by Yorsi. You'll get a bigger version in the core book, obviously. We just wanted to preview it here. We wanted to give you a little taste. And there it is. You get into the party. You meet some of those major villains. They let you in. They say, hey, we want you to participate in this murder mystery before you leave, because the party might be here for a different reason rather than participating in the murder mystery. So we wanted to include those seeds in there as well. And just like the, hey, don't leave until you whatever, you might make their Majesty Aisling Rovehnna mad, so on and so forth. If the party decides to do that, they decide to do that, and they can deal with the Vineyard in a different way. But if they're there for the one-shot adventures that you're running, then, you know, that's already the table has agreed to do that in a lot of ways, so. So moving on to the dance hall, we have this next area. We have my boyfriend, Seraph, the Whisperborn character, who is a hidden Whisperborn until later revealed in the adventure. And a Whisperborn is someone that is literally born of someone's secret. If you are born of someone's secret, the secret has already been given up to the Clerical Order of the Wandering Mother, or the Vineyard itself, and that secret is printed on a piece of parchment that is cast into the sacred bonfire, then becomes a person. That person, if their secret is spoken in their presence, they cease to be. And that is really one of the most interesting things that Kiana Shaw put into the Whisperborn when Kiana Shaw designed these this lineage that we have, and it just creates such great drama. And the thing about this murder mystery, big spoiler, is that if you speak the secret or you solve the murder mystery, Sheriff is going to die at the end, and you sort of lampshade that. And I've run this a lot of times. I've run it 10 times. And I would say 80% of parties accidentally kill Seraph. The other 20%, one of them didn't figure it out, and then one of them didn't chose not to kill Seraph because they figured it out and they correctly guessed that if they guessed what the result of the murder mystery was in order to gain the prize from the Vineyard, they would kill Seraph, and they like Seraph. So, that being said, there's a way to resurrect him. I'll get back to that. So moving on to the game room. This is where you meet one of the major NPCs, Ruhail. We have the game room itself. I included information about all these NPCs and some additional dialogue. We wanted to include a lot of dialogue not only for the NPCs that aren't important, but also the NPCs that are important. So if we go back to the dance hall, you know, you have some examples of like Lady Adhira Uriz and Simon and Tom, who interact with the party very briefly and can create these interesting scenarios or ways to interact with different party guests. But we wanted to also include both descriptions and dialogue options for every single one of our major NPCs, because sometimes you need a little bit of time to work with players as a GM in order to get them in the direction that you want to get them. Like you want to like usher them, you want to like gently push them, you want to push them in one direction. And in order to do that, they have to like interacting with that NPC. And in order to like interact with the NPC, you need content, you need like conversational tools, and that's what all this stuff is for. And we have in here, in Area 5, the game room, we have that reveal for the Whisperborn, that Seraph is a Whisperborn. And some additional line art by Allie Briggs about the handsome boy, my handsome boyfriend, Seraph. And then a brief description of like what is a Whisper, as well, just for the GM in case they forget. The wine and dine room, this is where we introduce La Chismosa. And we have our situation that we have the cover art for, where La Chismosa is striking the pose and introducing the murder suspects. We have for instance, a hyperlink to the appendices in the back where La Chismosa has a full spread. I'll get to that, which you should probably read before you run La Chismosa. But everything else is fairly straightforward. And then we have our murder suspects. And we have bulletized everything that they are willing to share right away. And then everything that they are hesitant to share. But if you use the magic item that's given to you by the confessor, then they are more likely to share, as long as you pass these persuasion checks, or however you want to run it as a GM. But it's good to know, like, how do I stay consistent with this character while I'm in this location, so you don't have to flip all the way back to the front. Unless you're just double checking stuff, or you're verifying, or you're like finding more information, and so on and so forth. All that information is right there for you. And then we have another line art of La Chismo. And then some additional dialogue and so on and so forth. And then stepping through to the murder scene itself. So the replica of the late Ingress's bedchamber. And this is something that we kind of set up to where we have every single clue sort of listed out in its own header, and how you interact with it, and how you present it as a GM. So you're going to want to read this section before you run it, obviously. Because if you don't, it's going to get confusing. Just like all murder mysteries. Not all of these things are imperative for the players to understand or know. It's just additional information. So instead of giving just the rule of 3, we gave like the rule of like 10 or 12. Like there's 10 or 12 murder mystery clues here, with the key ones listed in the front of the book. So as long as you cover 3 of the key ones, the rest of them you can just throw them in there. And it really just depends on like whether or not you want to just be difficult with your party or just make it super difficult. I find that even if I presented every single piece in the book every time I playtest it, still people would guess wrong. So it's a matter of like kind of judging whether or not you want to present everything and have them make their own decisions, or if you want to just only give them the information that you think will definitely lead them to making the decision that they're going to make. I think personally giving them all the information is the best thing. And it results in one of the favorite things a GM can do, is where you just sit there and you're just like, listening to my players talk and like listening to their theories. And I don't know, I find that to be really fun, so I love running this adventure for that reason. And then we have moving on to part 3. So this is where the game really wraps up, the murder mystery wraps up. And La Chismosa makes the announcement based on what happens. And I provide dialogue options for every single guess, every single incorrect guess. Maybe some people will provide other incorrect guesses with NPCs that don't exist or whatever. But I provided all those options, and I provided all the prize options as well. So if the players guess correctly, and Seraph is consequently killed as a punishment to Ruhail, who has a close relationship with Seraph, then you get these 2 options, diamond or contract. And you can work through that, whether or not your players want to go that route or whatever you'd like to do. And then we're going into the appendices. We have our 2 magic items, we have our NPC summaries, and then we have a big old we have our NPC summaries, and then I want to just point out that La Chismosa is not here in the NPC summaries because she gets her own section. She gets her own appendices because we're giving a full, we're giving a partial NPC dossier for our villain. And in the core book, these dossiers are going to be 15 to 20 pages, most of them. So as we scroll through, we see our stat blocks. We have decimation here, right here, and then we have the rock flower on the other side. And then we have some of these interactions or narrative pieces that are in these little boxes as well, in case you need some additional options for like how you're going to describe this fight going, how you're going to describe this hit happen. And I find those are things that like are really evocative and help you a lot as a GM to create more of that horror experience. And then La Chismosa, here's part of the dossier. We did not include the full biography. The full biography for La Chismosa is, first of all, it's hilarious. Shout out to Luna for the wonderful job that Luna did with the full dossier. But you have here everything from like how do you use them, some barks for like combat and dialogue and things like that. Their motives, flaws, strengths, role-playing them, relationship development, tactical guidance, how they escape, how their lair works, lair stuff, their minion that they can summon for their lair action. And then we have the stat block itself. And then finally, we have the NPC table book here. And then in the back of the book, you're going to find some links. So if you want $15 off your pre-order, you just click that link out there at the top. If you want to visit my website, Dollars and Dragons, you click the bottom link. If you want to leave us a rating or review, you click the middle button. If you play this adventure and you liked it, or you had issues with it, or whatever, please leave us a review. Please discuss this with us. Please talk to us about this. This is all about making the best product that we can release, because if we release Vineyard RPG next year, and it's bad forever. And I would rather not do that. I would rather release as good a product as we can. And this introductory adventure is gonna help us do that. So please let us know what you think. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And happy gaming. Bye everyone.